Well, going through the different aspects of prophecy, been trying to identify where a lot of the tribes of Israel went to. And so one more thing I wanted to just talk about in this message here was about a group of people that one of the tribes of Israel that kind of is a little bit of a mystery, but I think we've solved some of the mystery here now. In the book of Numbers, a second census of the Israelite men that were 20 years old and upwards that were actually fit for military duty was taken. The tribe of Simeon suffered extreme decrease in number. In Numbers chapter 26, in verse 14, it says, "These are the families of the Simeonites, 22,200. Now that's quite a decrease from the original one that was done in Numbers chapter 1, verses 22 and 23, that said that there was 59,300. So that's quite a lot of people. So what happened to the Simeonites? The title of this message is The Missing Simeonites. The Missing Simeonites. What was their fate? Well, we need to look at prophecy to understand. So we're going to look at Genesis chapter 49, and this is where Jacob, also known as Israel, blessed his children. And this was the blessing that came upon Simeon and also Levi. In Genesis chapter 49, verse 5, Simeon and Levi are brothers. Instruments of cruelty are in their dwelling place. Let not my soul enter their council. Let not my honor be united to their assembly. For in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they humstrung an ox. Cursed be their anger, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. They were blood brothers, not only because they sprung from the same two parents, Jacob and Leah, but they also have the same kind of disposition. They were headstrong, deceitful, vindictive, and cruel. As with Reuben, the blessing on Simeon and Levi is tied to a past event. They both lost the birthright blessing because they butchered the tribe of Shechem, who violated their sister Dinah. The irony is that the Levites became butchers, as their duties as Levite priests were to sacrifice the animals for the people. Simeon, the tribe of Simeon, were also butchers in that deed because they were a warlike people. In Genesis chapter 49, verse 5, again, I want to read the God's Word version of it. It says, "Their swords are weapons of violence." The Hebrew word violence is chasmas, and it shows the abhorrent ruthlessness motivated by their behavior. Simeon and Levi even hamstrung Shechem's ox needlessly, as mentioned in verse 6. Simeon and Levi didn't know when to stop. They didn't know when to stop. Not only did they destroy the whole community, but in their willfulness, they destroyed all that they could not carry away. On the account of their sin, the brothers will be cast in the promised land without permanent inheritance rights, according to verse 7. As expected, Jacob's words would come true in the history of the nation of Israel. Simeon is the only tribe Moses does not bless in Deuteronomy chapter 33. And he is only given a select number of cities within Judah's territory, according to Joshua chapter 19, verses 1 through 9. The tribe of Judah eventually absorbs the Simeonites that went into the promised land, and they seem to disappear from history. So what happened to Simeon and Levi and their descendants? Well, Jacob continues, I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. In other words, Simeon and Levi were not safe to live together. They must be separated and diluted, otherwise they would team up and ruin, up to the ruin and sorrow of everyone around them. The Levites, well, they were given a redeeming opportunity to serve God as the priestly tribe. And they were scattered throughout the tribes of Israel, but mainly in Judah. So what happened to the tribe of Simeon? Some were dispersed among the tribe of Judah as the territory was within Judah. Again, talking about Joshua chapter 19, verse 9, the inheritance of the children of Simeon was included in the share of the children of Judah. For the share of the children of Judah was too much for them. Therefore, the children of Simeon had their inheritance within the inheritance of that people. The Simeonites, which were numbered, did settle in the midst of the southern part of the tribe of Judah near the town of Beersheba. They eventually were absorbed into the other tribes, as the prophecy actually states. But not all the groups of Simeon remained among their southern neighbors. Some migrated to Gedor, which was a town about 10 miles southwest of Bethlehem. And another 500 men of Simeon, they went up to Mount Seir, a mountainous region stretching between the Dead Sea and the Gulf of Aqaba. And there they dislodged an Amalekite remnant. And that's mentioned in 1 Chronicles chapter 4, verses 39 through 43. Now in Josiah's time, King Josiah, the Simeonites still had their own cities, as it is mentioned in 2 Chronicles chapter 34 and verse 6. Simeon was indeed divided in Jacob and dispersed in Israel. But back to the numbering of only 22,200. Why were there so few compared to the other tribes? Now questions come up. Could they have perished in Korah's rebellion, where many died? Well, in Korah's rebellion, most of the people were Reubenites and Levites that were perished in that. So what about the other thing is a lot of scholars look at is the Israel's harlotry with Moab, which is mentioned in Numbers chapter 25, the chapter right before this numbering. Now, Numbers chapter 25, verse 6, it says, "And indeed, one of the children of Israel came and presented to his brethren a Midianite woman in the sight of Moses and all the sight of the congregation of the children of Israel, who were weeping at the door of the tabernacle of meeting. Now, when Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, saw it, he rose from among the congregation and took a javelin in his hand. And he went after the man of Israel into the tent and thrust both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through her body." Now, according to verses 14 and 15, it was a Simeonite named Zimri who paraded this prostitute in front of Moses and the people. And it was Phinehas, a Levite priest and a grandson of Aaron, who slayed him. This caused conflict between these two tribes. There's no doubt in that. After all, Phinehas just killed a Simeonite prince or a chieftain. These two blood brother tribes were at the heart of this event. Now, some scholars believe that most of the 24,000 that died in the plague that occurred because of this sin were of this tribe of Simeon. But were all the dead of this plague Simeonites? Does that even make sense? The scriptures do not specifically say this, and it's logical to believe that there are other Israelite tribes that were involved in this great sin. Now, Paul refers to this event in 1 Corinthians chapter 10. In 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 8 it says, "Nor let us commit sexual immorality as some of them did, and in one day 23,000 fell." Paul mentions only 23,000. So is this an error? People want to, he got the number wrong. Paul in this statement was only referring to those who died of the plague. He wasn't talking about the other 1,000 that were ordered to be slain by God. In Numbers chapter 25 and verse 4 it says, "Then the Eternal said to Moses, take all the leaders of the people and hang the offenders before the Eternal out in the sun, that the fierce anger of the Eternal may turn away from Israel." So Moses said to the judges of Israel, "Every one of you kill his men who were joined with Baal of Peor." So 24,000 was the total who died that day. Paul was only referring to the latter number, those that died in the plague. But still, there is nowhere we can find that the slain was only the tribe of Simeon. Again, when you look at Moses telling the judges, and there was a judge over every tribe, and he says, "Every one of you kill his men that are under him who were joined with this Baal worship," because that's what these prostitutes were, priestesses of Baal. So therefore, that includes a bunch of other tribes, not just the Simeonites. What is clear about this day is that a future high priest of the tribe of Levi killed a Simeonite chief. This stirred up strife between these two blood brother tribes. The Levites had their appointed positions as Levite priests and working with the temple and the tabernacle. But the Simeonites did not. So many believe that some of them left before the second numbering of the tribes, that the Simeonites actually led a little mini exodus away from the camp to other parts of the area. And it is possible because there were groups of people in that area of the world which exhibited Israelite characteristics, while the Israelites themselves were in the Promised Land during the time of Judges. And I mentioned that before in some of my other messages. Now both Yair Davidi and Stephen M. Collins comment about these groups in their writings. Now one of them was known as the Sea Peoples, who settled throughout the Mediterranean world. And they caused a lot of havoc around the time of 1200 BCE. There was a lot of civilizations that were destroyed by earthquakes, and the Sea Peoples kind of went in and cleaned up. The Philistines were one of these Sea Peoples as well. But some of them might have been the Simeonites, and also people from the tribe of Dan, which I mentioned before. Now Collins believes that the Spartans of Greece may have been Simeonites. In a book called The Spartans of Greece by Peter Salome, says the Jewish historian Josephus provides us with the link. Josephus shows that the Lacedaemonian, the Spartans, they were also called Lacedaemonians, but the Spartans of Greece, they were closely related to the Jews. Now Josephus relates an incredible letter from Spartan to Judah. It says, Jonathan, the high priest of the Jewish nation, to the Ephori in the senate of the people of the Lacedaemonians, send greeting. When in former times an epistle was brought to Onias, who was then our high priest, we have discovered that both Jews and the Lacedaemonians are of one stock and are derived from the kindred of Abraham. Concerning the kindred that was between us and you, a copy which is here subjoined, we both joyfully received the epistle, because we were well satisfied about it from the sacred writings, yet did not we think fit first to begin to claim this relationship to you, the glory which is now given us by you. It is a long time since this relationship of ours to you hath been renewed, and when we upon holy and festival days offer sacrifices to God, we pray to him for your preservation and victory. You will therefore do well yourselves to write us and send us an account of what you stand in need from us, since we are in all things disposed to act according to your desires. And this is written by Josephus in the Antiquities of the Jews. Now in the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 14, verses 16 through 23, it also records a correspondence, which includes a statement. Now the first book of Maccabees, I know it's included in some Bibles. It's more of a historical account and not really completely spiritually or inspired by God, but it is a historical account. But in this letter it says, in this copy of the letter which the Spartans send, the chief magistrates in the city of Spartans send greeting to Simon, the chief priest, and to the elders and the priests and the rest of the Jewish people, our kinsmen. It is revealed by the Spartans themselves in their own writings that they are related to the Jews. In a new system, this is the title of a book, A New System or Analysis of Ancient Mythology by Jacob Bryant, he relates that Stephanus, why can't it just be Stephen? Stephanus Byzantium shows that Alexander Polyhistor and Claudius Jolas also speak of a direct relationship or kinship between the Spartan Greeks and the people of Judea. Can these missing Simonites be the Spartans? Now the historian Herodotus, he records that the Spartans celebrated the new moons and the 7th day of the month. Now observing new moons was an Israelite calendar custom, and their observance of a 7th day could have originated from the Sabbath celebration. So they retained some of the traits that they had when they were with the Israelites. Now the Spartans did possess the same traits as Simeon, including the violent temper, as such as seen in when the Spartans were under King Leonidas. Also, its love for warfare and weapons. In his book, The Spartans, by Paul Cartledge, he writes, the male Spartan citizens were forbidden any other trade, profession, or business other than war. Uniquely professional and motivated fighting forces, what they were supposed to be. Like Jacob prophesied, instruments of cruelty are their habitations. When the male Spartans began military training at the age of 7, they would enter the agoge system. Now the agoge was designed to encourage discipline and physical toughness and to emphasize the importance of the Spartan state. The boys lived in a communal messes, and according to Xenophon, whose sons attended the Ogod, the boys were fed just the right amount of them never to be sluggish through being too full, while also giving them a taste of what it is not to have enough. And that's according to the Spartan society. In the When the 300 Spartans held off an entire army of the Persians, it's no wonder that Jacob scattered them in Israel. United, who knows what kind of damage they would have caused in the world. Were there other people who claimed to be from the tribe of Simeon? Well, when the tribe of Dan showed up in Ireland around 720 BCE, known then as the Tuatha De Danann, a tribe of the people named SIMEONITES also arrived, settled in what is now southwest England and Wales. Could this be a remnant of the Simeonites? It's quite possible, as there were other tribes associated with them. Now, in Irish mythology, there was the SIMEONITES, and they were supposed to be from the son of Esau, which could be Israel, as their ancestor. It's interesting, some of the names are similar, but in a different version. Now, among the Celts, historian Frederick Haberman writes in his book, Tracing Our Ancestors, says they are recorded by the Roman writers as the Cimmerians, Gauls, and the Sinuans. The later word, Sinuans, is Latin for Simeon. The Sinuans, together with their brethren, the Gauls, defeated the Romans in the Battle of Aela on July 18th in 390 BCE and set fire to Rome itself. Who also adopted the name, these people also adopted the name of Simri and Cumri, which names are derived from that are Cumbers, Cumberland, and North Cumberland. Now, David sums up the scattering of the Simeon all over the tribes of Israel. It says a Simeon was found in the SIMEONITES, the Simony, the Simoni, the Samnites. A bunch of different names are all very similar, and of course, like I said, this Simoniai. And these were all major groups within the Celts of Ireland, Wales, Britain, and Gaul. Again, in the final blessing of the tribes in Deuteronomy 33, Moses made no mention of this teeny tribe of Simeon. Deborah, similarly, made no reference to this tribe scattered in Israel in her song. God, however, does not overlook them. In the restored prosperity of Israel, prophesied in Ezekiel, Simeon will have his place, positioned between Benjamin and Issachar. And that's in Ezekiel chapter 48. So where are the missing Simeonites? They migrated to the northwestern part of Europe like the other tribes. Today they are most likely descendants of the Welsh and possibly mixed in with the Irish and English as well. Since the Simeonites were prominently joining the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh to serve God, this indicates that you will find them among Ephraim and Manasseh at the end times. And you can get this from 2 Chronicles chapter 15 verses 9 and also chapter 34 verse 6. The scriptures say that they are mixed in with all the tribes of Israel, just as the Levites were. Many, of course, are consumed with the Jews, along with their brethren, the Levites. In the United States, there are approximately 2 million people of Welsh ancestry concentrated in Pennsylvania and Ohio, my dad being one of them. Where are the missing Simeonites? Well, God knows where they are.